Emptiness. Emptiness to most is the absence of everything. Because for something to be empty, nothing is in it. That's interesting because it's like the glass half full or half empty conversation. The glass is completely full, it's just completely full with two different substances. But if you're only looking from the purview of either substance, the glass is only half full or half empty. If you're thinking it from the perspective of a liquid, the glass is half full. If you're thinking about it from the substance of a gas, air, the glass is half empty because half of the glass has air in it, the other half doesn't, has nothing, almost, right? But either way, you could say either or. Even with it being halfway full of air, you can say, oh, it's halfway full of air. It's a perspective thing. And that's because your perspective is everything. And in life, we never truly know the perspective of someone else. It's all a guess. It's all a game of give and take, what you know versus what you're willing to tell, what's provided versus what you're willing to provide. That is the game of life. No matter how well you know someone, you will never know every thought that creeps across their head. No matter how intimately you know their story, you can never feel the pain of their story, but you can still appreciate it. That is what makes life beautiful. Because we are all so far from each other to the point where there's almost an infinite distance between us. If I asked you right now what I want to eat, you wouldn't be able to tell me. If I asked you right now what's my favorite color, you wouldn't be able to tell me. If I asked you what's your favorite color, I wouldn't know. But you could tell me, and even if you tell me, I wouldn't know the nuances of why you like that color. And if you were to tell me the nuances of why you like that color, I still might not know the subconscious of why you particularly like that color, your experiences with that color. And even if I did know those things, I might not understand those things because my favorite color is different from your favorite color. That is life, simplified extremely. Because we are always alone. No matter how much you tell somebody something, you ever experience the fact that they still disagree? Something you believe is common sense, they see as something that is extremely difficult to wrap their head around. Thus, instead of trying to understand it, they simply say you're wrong. Even though in your mind, you're very, very, very correct. Why is that? Well, as humans, we need to communicate. Without that, we literally go insane. Psychologically, by design, we need to communicate. You even look at animals. Most animals hunt in packs. When they don't hunt in packs, they still have family that they feed and take care of. And when they don't have family that they feed and take care of, they have a partner to reproduce. This is because to be something that lives, you have a desire to be with something else. And I believe this is because in the grand abstractity of being alone, you desire connection. Now, people fear death. Why? Multiple theories about it, but let me tell you what I think about it. I think we fear death because it is the only time we will truly be alone. It is similar to the primal fear that is ingrained in our bodies to where we're all at some point afraid of the dark. Why? Because you don't know it's there. Why don't you know it's there? I can't see anything. Why can't you see anything? It's pitch black. And I can't hear anything. I don't hear any sounds. Anything could be there. Much before you watch your first horror film, we naturally have a fear of the dark because we feel hopeless. We feel like there is nothing we can do because we need some external source, the sun, a light, a candle, to shine the light for us, because as humans, we're not bioluminescent. We can't create lights out of our fingers. So in being alone, you feel powerless. But when you're with someone else, you can build something. You can have a kid. You can have a family. You can build a relationship. You have somebody who understands you more than the average person would, therefore giving you somebody to talk to, communicate with, and be on the same page with. We are alone. The decisions you make, despite there being billions of people who have made the same decision, is informed on different information, fueled by different circumstances, fueled by different upbringings, and your intuition, which is a culmination of essentially all of those things I just listed. Your intuition, in my understanding of things, is kind of who you are, philosophically. Because your intuition is fueled not only by your own definition of common sense, but is fueled by what you currently understand, what you wish to know, your beliefs, things of that nature that allows you to make a decision on the fly. Someone else who sees, a white van stop in the middle of the road near like a foresty, like road joint where it's like empty, and they hop out the car, they start sprinting towards you. Your intuition tells you drive off. I don't want to get kidnapped. I don't want to potentially get harmed. I don't want anything bad to happen to me. Someone else's intuition be like, oh, this guy can need help. Let me park the car. Now they're kidnapped, caught, whatever. You feel me? Maybe that person did need help. Who knows? But that intuition to make that decision from the fight or flight perspective is who you are, because it's cultivated by a mass multitude of factors that have influenced who you are. So now that we know that our intuition describes us, and that everyone's intuition, though can be similar, is different because it's based off a mass multitude of factors, you come to the conclusion that you are one of a kind. You're one of one. Now that's powerful in the sense that there's no one else quite like you. You provide value in people's lives that we appreciate, and you sometimes harm other people's lives in ways they don't appreciate. But you do it in a way that only you could do. Everybody can tell me to shut up. But if you tell me to shut up and I care for you, it's going to hurt a lot more. Because why are you telling me to shut up? I trust you. And that one of a kind, that uniqueness is what makes you alone. Because nobody has experienced the exact things that you've experienced. Because though they might have experienced similar events, the events that came before it aren't the same. And if those events are the same, the events that came before that aren't the same. And if those events are the same, their base brain programming was slightly different than yours. So they had an initial reaction that was different, which then fueled who they were. Their intuition was then changed how they act in those other scenarios. So now you go down this chain of scenarios, and even though they live the exact same events as you, they're a completely opposite person from who you are. That is kind of the premise of multiverse theory. Every decision you make has a ripple effect, because every decision you make, if you want to think about it in the most binary way possible, there's a yes or no decision. There's a yes or no on any decision you make. You've made billions of decisions to get you where you are now. For every yes or no, that splits the timeline. If you know about permutations and combinations, one of the two, you know that it's not exactly a guarantee. What I mean by that is it multiplies at a very rapid rate. It's like an exponential function. If me doing this video is a yes or no, and me doing the video is a yes, two realities are created. The yes reality and the no reality. Now, when another decision pops up, there are now no longer just two realities. There are these two base realities and four realities that spawn out of this reality, these two. So now there are six realities, there are six outcomes, there are six possibilities. And as a new one occurs, that process repeats. You went from 2 to 6. And then you go from 6 to from each of the 1, 2, 3, 4, you have 2 to 8, 8 plus 6, you now have, what's that, 14? 14 possibilities only on the third joint. And that's coming off of there being binary decisions, yes or no. Knowing that every decision we make in real life has millions of nuances. So with that being the case, there's billions and billions of possibilities and combinations on how to get to where you are now. Knowing that's the case, no one else will ever be like you. They can be similar, they can be close. Look at the GOAT debate in basketball. Some people say Michael Jordan, some people say LeBron. You look at how they play completely differently. You know what I'm saying? If you're nuanced in the way you understand ball, you might say Steph Curry. Steph Curry plays completely different from Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan plays completely different than Steph Curry and LeBron. LeBron plays completely different from Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, Steph Curry, Hakeem Olajuwon, Kobe, and Shaquille O'Neal. Everybody is different and unique in the way they operate. And because of that, no one can give you the perfect advice. There is no perfect answer because everything we do is off the cuff. Everything we've created is from trial and error. Don't exempt yourself from being allowed to make mistakes, from being allowed to go through trial and error, because that trial and error that you're kind of disrespecting and thinking you were exempt from is what made you who you are. And that happened with the multiple billions of decisions your parents made, but then the parents before them, and the parents before them, and the parents before them. And that goes on for millions of years. Well, modern human history, 100,000 years, a millennia, etc. But you get the point. So I say all that to say that you're alone, and there will never be a perfect guide to the decisions that you make. You will never have perfect certainty in what you do, but you have to put your foot forward, because every decision you make carves out your reality. It carves out what makes you unique, what allows you to help people in the way you help them, what allows you to shape people's lives in the way you help shape them. Because those decisions you make, even though you're alone, affect everyone, because everyone is alone. And in that, we are together. The fact that nobody is the exact same, nobody knows what the other person's thinking 100%, allows us to see the beauty in communication. I want to talk to you because I can't read your mind. I need to know the nuances of who you are, and that helps me determine, what are we? Are we close friends? Are you a guy that would crawl over the wire if I needed you to? Those things matter. And even though we were alone, as stated before, we were all alone, which connects us. So, hence the kinda in the title, you're alone. Nobody will ever understand you perfectly. But you can be understood. You can convey a message. You can be heard. And you can be loved. Because that's what you were designed to do. You were designed to be loved. You were designed out of love. No matter what religion you believe in, the chances of life turning out the exact way it turned out is nigh impossible. It's like take 1 and multiply it by 10 to a negative Googleplex. It is probably smaller than that. Very small chance that this happens. And whatever created us, if we understand the Big Bang is the creation of space-time, there was no time before the Big Bang, no space before the Big Bang. Something had to exist outside of time and space. And it had to do things that led to the Big Bang. And then the Big Bang created space and time. Time kind of creates causality because cause comes before effect. Without time, there is no cause, there is no effect. So this thing that created us existed before cause and effect and beyond space-time. But we were created. I would argue that's out of love because they have no reason to create us. And if we're made in their image, as most sacred texts say, then you're made alone. Like that being was alone before it created us. So we're meant to be alone, but in that, We find togetherness. We find family. We find meaning. We find a path that we get to carve ourselves that other people can dig down and create their own paths into. That is life. That is existence. And as a person, you need to learn how to live with yourself, how to tolerate being alone. And then, and only then, can you truly enjoy the company of others. Because you'll learn how to be alone with someone else, as well as how to understand someone who's alone. And that's why you're alone. Kinda.